inverse of Laplace transform. But the statement and the proof of convolution theorem does not require the inverse formula. So today I will tell you about the statement and the proof of convolution theorem. So let us take down the statement first. It is like this. There are two function students and the corresponding Laplace transforms. First one is, let L of f1 of t is equal to capital F1 of s, and L of f2 of t is equal to capital F2 of s. You know that Laplace transform, when you find out, its answer is in terms of parameter s, and that's why we denote the right hand side by function of s, where s is a parameter. Then Laplace of integral from 0 to t f1 of t into f2 of t minus x dx is equal to f1 of s into f2 of s. So when you take Laplace of integral from 0 to t f1 of t into f2 of t minus x dx, it is nothing but product of their Laplace transforms. This is called as convolution theorem. So this is the convolution theorem statement. Now if you go to prove this, okay, we are going to start with the left hand side, students. So it is what? Laplace of integral from 0 to t f1 of t into f2 of t minus x dx. Okay. This is our left hand side of the theorem. Now what you have to prove? You have to prove that this is equal to f1 of s into f2 of s. That is Laplace transform of first function into Laplace transform of the second function. This you are going to prove. Now before writing the next step, just recall the formula of Laplace transform. The basic formula, students, which I gave you in the beginning of this unit. So, Preksha, can you tell me what is the original formula of Laplace transform of f of t? Preksha, no? Preksha only, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's
So,
integral
hmm,
0 to infinity
hmm,
e raised to minus st
hmm,
of t dt.
hmm. Very good. So, students, as I told you, this formula should be at the tip of your tongues. The proof of all the formulas which we have done, like for example, multiplication by t, division by t, Laplace of integral and all, you are going to use this formula. That is the basic formula of Laplace transform. And Laplace transform of all functions does not exist, because unless and until this integral exists, the Laplace transform will not exist. So if you see the chart of formulas which I gave you, there is no Laplace of tan, right? So the reason may be this integral may not be existing for tan. So suppose you don't find some standard function in the chart. So you have to say that the integral for that particular function means when you replace f of t by that particular function, this whole integral does not exist. That's why Laplace transform of for that particular function does not exist. That is called as existence property of Laplace transform. Okay. Now back to this, we are going to find out Laplace transform of this integral. So now see the formula, students. Laplace transform of f of t is what? Laplace transform of something is what? Integral from 0 to infinity e raised to minus st and dt. This is fixed, right? What is this f of t in the middle? This f of t is nothing but this f of t, right? You are finding Laplace transform of something, some function, and that function will reflect on the right hand side at this place under the integral sign. Are you understanding? Why I am telling you this? Because we are going to compare this equation to this formula. So now in our problem, what is f of t? You are finding Laplace transform of what? You are finding Laplace transform of this whole integral, students. Okay. And therefore, Pradyuman, why you are so late? Why you are joining so late? What's the time? 10:45. Correct? So you are finding Laplace transform of this bracket. So this is your f of t. Try to understand. E raised to minus st f of t is there inbuilt in the formula. But this f of t will change according to this bracket. So here you are taking it as 0 to t, f1 of t, f2 of t minus x dx. Hope you have understood this step. So this is your f of t, students. This bracket is f of t. E raised to minus st f of t dt. Is that clear? Okay. Now see students, we are going to solve this integral to get the required right hand side. But keeping this integral as it is, we are not going to get it easily. So what we are going to do is, we are going to solve this integral by changing order of integral. Because now this is the problem of double integration, if you remember, right? Now before changing of integral, see what I do. The innermost integral, listen all of you carefully. You can hear me, right? All of you can hear me, right? Who
Yes,
will
ma'am.
join? Yes. Abdullah, why you are so late joining the class? Anytime you can join the class. Huh? You're at home only, no, everybody? So can't you join the class on time? It's already 10:46. And how many students are there? Only 22 students. Now I'll start taking attendance in the beginning, within first 10 minutes. Then see. If you don't join on time, then you're absent. You cannot take your own time, no? Any time you join, aram se. Okay, by changing order of integral. Now see what I'm doing. The innermost limits are for x, right? So I write the equations like this. X equal to 0 for basic integral. These are the limits for x, right? So x equal to 0 and x equal to t. And outermost limits are for t, because outermost integral is with respect to t. So these are the limits for t, right? So t is equal to 0 and t is equal to infinity. So whenever you are solving double integration, first you write 4 equations according to 4 limits. Done? Now I'll draw a small diagram for the students. How it will be now, see. Suppose this is my t-axis and this is my x-axis. Usually we take this as x and this is t, no? But now here this is t and this is x. Now t equal to 0 means what? T equal to 0 means here it is x-axis. X equal to 0 where it will be? It will be on t-axis. Correct? Infinity. T equal to infinity means we cannot show it on the paper. X equal to t means it is the line x equal to y, right? So this is your line x equal to t. Okay. Now we have to show the region of integration. To show the region of integration, now see innermost integral is with respect to x. Correct? So your strips should be parallel to x-axis. Parallel to x-axis, but you don't know whether this is the region of integration or this is the region of integration. Now see, everything you have done already in second semester. Actually, I can tell you directly what are the new limits of integration, but just I'm explaining for revision purpose. So x equal to 0 is this base, x equal to t is this line. So definitely your strips will be, this should be your region of integration, this region, okay? And strips are parallel to x-axis because your innermost integral is with respect to x. So see whether the condition gets satisfied. X equal to 0, yes. X equal to t, that is the upper limit. Then left to right. Left, what is value of t here, students? Minimum value of t is 0, and what is maximum value of t when you go to right? It is infinity, right? Because you don't know where it is going to end. So this diagram is for the basic double integration, which is there already we got. Now we are changing order of integration. Is what we are going to do, students. In place of taking innermost integral with respect to x, now you will be integrating this with respect to t first and then with respect to x. So diagram will be same, region of integration will be same. Only what will change here, this is t axis, x equal to 0, this is x axis, t equal to 0. Region of integration is also same. Only in place of taking vertical axis, that is parallel to x, now you will be taking the horizontal strips or horizontal lines. Okay, and that is called a change of order of integral. Now see carefully, this integral will look like this, double integral. Now innermost limits will be for t and outermost limits will be for x, right? Inside the terms I am not changing at all. It is e raised to minus st, f1 of t, f2 of t minus x, then what else is remaining? Now it will be dt and then dx, right? So I am putting bracket here. See, I am changing order of integration. So first innermost integral was with respect to x. Now I am making it as with respect to t. And then outermost integral will be with respect to x. Now while writing limits for t, what you are going to do is, now the horizontal strips. So what is value of t from left to right, students, that you have to see. What is t here and what is t on the right hand side? So can you tell me what will be the limits? Anybody? Adnan, can you tell me what will be the limits of innermost integral here? Adnan, can you hear me? You can unmute yourself even if you don't know the answer. You unmute and
Yes,
say.
ma'am.
Yes. Can you tell me what will be the limits, innermost limits, looking at the diagram?
Ma'am, 0 to
No.
T.
No. Horizontal strip from left to right. What is t on this line? X, right? Because x equal to t is the line. So lower limit will be x. And what is t on this side, right hand side of the region? You don't know. It is going to infinity, right? So it is x t equal to x to infinity. Okay, then who will tell me the outermost limits? Anybody? Norman, can you tell me what are the outermost limits? Norman,
Yes, ma'am.
can you tell me outermost limits?
0 to t.
Very good. The lowermost limit is 0. How t? You don't know where it is ending, right?
Sorry,
So if I
infinity.
infinity, because if I extend this line, you don't know where it is going, right?
Yes.
So it is 0 to infinity. Very good. So now these are your change of order of integration. Now see students, in case you are finding changing of order of integration difficult or what, then directly you by heart. Okay. Originally the limits are from 0 to t, 0 to infinity. Then the new limits are from x to infinity, 0 to infinity. And then you interchange, because when I'll be teaching all these things for diploma students, their base of mathematics is very weak. In fact, they join after 10th standard and a small unit of mathematics they have in some one semester of their syllabus. So from where they will know this double integration and all. So I tell them directly to by heart this limits. Okay, it becomes easier for them. But why explain, why I gave some 10-15 minutes for this? Because you're already done with double integration. That's why I explained this. Okay, so this is done. And now it is solving of double integration problem. So what we'll do is, we know that our innermost limit is with respect to t and outermost limit is with respect to s. Now see students, there are some key steps which you need to remember. See what I do here. In the exponent, what I do is minus s I take out, okay, and from this t I subtract s, I subtract x and I add x. No change in other terms. So I call this as the key steps because after changing of order of integration, you have to go for this step, right? Now see what we are going to get by doing this. So all these things we are doing just to get the required form. So in the next step, you are getting the term which is independent of t, and that term will take out, okay? Take out of innermost integral. So see how I write it. Integral from x equal to 0 to infinity. Then integral from t is equal to x to infinity. Then which is the term independent of this, that will take out. So it will be e raised to minus s t minus x. Okay. This is f1 of x, and f1 of x is also independent of x. So no need to do anything here. This will be f2 of t minus x. So dt. And now here by using rule of indices, e raised to minus sx will come out, no? Correct? Only this part I have taken in here. Are you understanding, students? Then when you split using rule of indices, e raised to minus sx will remain. That I am taking out. And then what is another term? f1 of x. This is also independent of t, right? So that is also taken out. And then dx. So if you observe, I am just simplifying it because it is double integration. I want terms in t collected inside integral. Now your aim is to solve this integral, and for that purpose, let us use some substitution, students, as z. T minus x is equal to z. Okay. Now see, this integral is with respect to t. So role of x will be constant in the innermost integral. This you know. So when you find out dt, it will be just dz, because derivative of x will be 0. Now can you tell me what will be the changes in the limits, students? We join now. Okay, so the original variable is t, new variable is z. Original limits are from x to infinity, right? So if I replace x by t by x, x minus x is 0. So new z will be 0, right? And when I replace t by infinity, infinity minus some known number will be infinity. Okay, so directly you can put the values and check for the new limits. So outermost integral we are not touching at all. Innermost integral, your new limits are from 0 to infinity. This is e raised to minus sz, and it is f2 of z, no, f2 of z, and dt is dz. Then put the bracket, and these terms we are keeping as it is. Okay. Any doubt, students? If you have at any step, you are free to ask. Even if it is minor doubt, don't hesitate to ask if you have not followed something. Okay, should I proceed? Half of the class is not there today. None. What is the problem, Ishan? Do you know? Okay. For online exam, you have to study. Great. Hmm? Yeah. Okay. Study. All the best. Okay. Now tell me about this. What is this inside integral? Again, I will tell you to recall the original formula of Laplace transform. What is the original formula, students? 0 to infinity, e is to minus st, f of t, dt, right? And this is L of f of t. This is the same formula which I wrote earlier, students. Okay. So now can you tell me what is happening here? Isn't it same thing which we got inside the outer integral? This e raised to minus sz. Now variable is z in place of t. In formula we have variable t. Okay, f2 of z. In place of f of t we have small f2 of z. This we denote by f of s, right? So by comparing this, for innermost integral, what you can write? Akash is not there today. Akash? Akash, I think Akash is speaking. Okay. Nigel, can you tell me what you can write for innermost integral? Yeah. Just compare it with this integral. It will be L of F2 of Z, no? So what you can substitute for that? Roald can tell. Roald,
Is it f of s?
only F of S or F2 of S? This is F2 of Z, no? So it will be F2 of S, right? Because of this 2 suffix. So that same suffix should carry forward, no? It is F of S, but your function is not F of Z, no? If it was F of Z, then it is capital F of S, correct? So by comparison, it is nothing but Laplace transform of this F2 of Z, and it is denoted by F2 of S. And then these terms we are not touching. This is as it is, correct? Now this F2 of S will remain outside because now this term is independent of X, and what is remaining is X equal to 0 to infinity e raised to minus Sx F1 of X dx. Correct? Muskan, can you tell me about this integral now? What you can substitute for this? Muskan, can you hear me? Hello, Muskan, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what about this integral? Direct comparison with the formula. In place of f of t, what you have? You have f1 of t. All other things the same. Yes, so it will be capital F1 of S. Very good. And by the commutative law, multiplication is commutative. You can interchange the terms, and this is your required right hand side. And here completes the proof, students. Okay, so most of the times the proof comes in exam for at around 7 to 8 marks. State and prove convolution theorem for Laplace transform. Now in your syllabus, especially yeah, you are ETC. Okay, so you don't have other transforms. Computers are having 2 more transforms, Fourier transform and Z transform. Okay. So first and second units are exactly same in almost all branches of engineering. Then from third unit onwards, the topics are different. Okay, so done, students. All of you understood this proof. You have to sit again with this proof and learn every step carefully. Now, for example, suppose it is asked to find Laplace transform of integral from 0 to t e raised to x sine of t minus x dx. This is asked to solve, students. Okay. Now, whenever you see the terms like x, t minus x, you should understand that you are going to take help of Laplace convolution theorem. In the problem, it will not, sometimes it may not be mentioned, right? But you have to understand that this problem is based on convolution theorem. Now, what is convolution theorem? Let me write the convolution theorem first, so that direct comparison is going to give us answer immediately. So, by convolution theorem, Laplace of f1 of x into f2 of t minus x dx from the limit 0 to t is equal to f1 of s into f2 of s, correct? And what is f1 of x? It is Laplace transform of the first function. And what is capital F2 of s? It is Laplace transform of small f2 of s, f2 of t, right? So this is the convolution theorem which you need to remember. Now once you remember this, you can easily write the right hand side of the given problem. So Answer will be. Now what is f1 and what is f2 here, students? f1 is e raised to x, right? So here first find out Laplace of e raised to x. What is f2 of t? f2 of t is sine of x. Correct, no? Because the function in the convolution theorem is inbuilt as f2 of t minus x. See the difference, students. But when you are taking the Laplace transform of second function, we don't take Laplace transform of f2 of t minus x. We take it as f2 of t. Understood? So function of t. So if you want, you can take this as e raised to t and sine of t. It doesn't make any difference, but don't take it as t minus x for the second function. You have to take the original function by ignoring t minus x. Is that clear, students? So what is Laplace of e raised to x? Anybody? Fazila, can you tell Laplace of e raised to x?
1 upon x minus a, s minus a.
S minus 1, because a is 1 here. Very good. And who will tell me? Simi, can you tell me Laplace of sin x?
1 upon s square plus 1.
Very good. Okay. So these are all basic formulas for the elementary functions. So on the answer, the right hand side is what? Laplace of first term into Laplace of second term. That's all. That is your answer. So you need not do anything else other than finding what is f1 of x, what is f2 of x, and get their Laplace transforms. And product of the two Laplace transforms is your final answer. Okay. Any doubt, students, in this? Riva is joined just now, or you were there already, Riva? Net issues, okay. Okay, students, so this is about Laplace transform. And now the next part I am going to start is called as Laplace inverse transforms, okay, which is again based on Laplace transform formulas. So inverse Laplace transform. Laplace transform. Now, like how you remember, differentiation and integration are the reverse processes, correct? If you find derivative of something and integration of the same thing, then what happens is you can observe that they are reverse processes. Similarly here, now see, for example, what is Laplace of 1? What is Laplace of 1? Riva?
1 by s.
1 by s. So this implies Laplace inverse of 1 by s is 1. Correct or no? So if I take L inverse on both sides, I get Laplace inverse of 1 upon s is 1. So you got first formula of Laplace inverse, right? So basically when you write L of f of t is equal to capital F of s. If you take L inverse on both sides, you get L inverse of capital F of s is equal to f of t. So you remember like this, whenever you are solving problem based on just Laplace transform, the right hand side answer will be in terms of s, where s is a parameter. But whenever you are finding the problem on Laplace inverse, the problem will be in terms of s, but your answer will be in terms of t. Okay, so it is the reverse process. So let us write the formulas. So first formula already you got, L inverse of 1 upon s is 1. Then the second one I want to give you is L inverse of 1 upon s minus a. Who will tell me what will be this? L inverse of 1 upon s minus a. Vidula? Can you tell me, Vidula, what will be L inverse of 1 upon S minus A? Can you hear me, Vidula? Vidula left. What happened? Okay, who will be able to tell? Anjima?
Ma'am, it's e to the power 80.
E to the power 80. Very good. Because see, students, Laplace of e raised to 80 is 1 upon S minus A, right? So it is directly reverse. Then what will be L inverse of 1 upon S plus A? It will be e raised to minus 80, right? The sign of the power will be opposite. Then the fourth one, it is L inverse of 1 upon S square plus A square. Any guesses, students? How to write Laplace inverse of this? With which formula of Laplace you can compare it with? Denominator is S square plus A square. So either it is sine or cos, right? If it was with minus sign, then it is hyperbolic sine or hyperbolic cos. So I'll compare it with Laplace of sine of 80. See this carefully, students. You know that Laplace of sine 80 is A upon S square plus A square, right? But A is a constant, correct? So A can be always cross multiplied. So when I take L inverse of S square plus A square, I will take this as 1 upon A sine of 80. Okay. So why 1 upon A is coming into the picture? Because A is a constant which can be cross multiplied to the other side. Okay. But this will not happen in the formula of cos. So it has to be S upon S square plus A square, because S is a parameter. You cannot cross multiply by the parameter in the formula. Only constants are adjustable, not the parameters. So here what happens? It will be just cos of 80. Are you understanding, students? Because Laplace of cos 80 is what? Laplace of cos 80 is S upon S square plus A square. We cannot transfer this S to other side. It will not remain out of the Laplace transform. Okay. But A is a constant, so by linearity property, A can be taken out, but not S. So whenever the numerator is 1 in Laplace inverse, you have to write the answer in terms of sine. Whenever the numerator is S, you have to write the answer in terms of cos. Now same rule will be followed for hyperbolic functions. Only the middle sign I will change here. 1 upon S square minus A square, it will be what? 1 upon A sine hyperbolic 80. And L inverse of S upon A square minus A square will be just cos hyperbolic 80. This S will not go to other side with the same reason. So whenever there is minus sign in the denominator, the answer is in hyperbolic function. H stands for hyperbola. Okay. Sine, cosine, tan, all these are circular functions because they are related to the circle. Right, and H means these are the functions which are related to the hyperbola. Okay, all of you understood these formulas, students. So like how you have by hearted the formulas for Laplace transform, you need to by heart the table for Laplace inverse transform. Okay, now some more formulas are there. I want to know what is Laplace inverse of 1 upon S raised to n. Okay, will you try quickly and tell me? You have one formula similar in Laplace transform, correct? Just compare that formula with this by making the minor changes and see what is the required right hand side. All of you, please do.
Ma'am, is it S upon n factorial into t raised to n?
Repeat.
S upon n factorial into t raised to n.
No. Okay, with which formula you are comparing this?
The Laplace of t raised to n.
Okay, what is Laplace of t raised to n?
n factorial upon s raised to n plus 1.
You told me this formula, right? Now,
Yes.
yes. So you have to compare this with this formula and tell me what will be L inverse of 1 upon s raised to n. You are correct. You are going to refer this formula. So anybody, Ishan, can you tell what will be the formula? No? See students, here you want s raised to n, right? But you have s raised to n plus 1 in your basic formula. So definitely you are going to replace n as n minus 1 because you have to do the corresponding changes, right? So it will be Laplace of t raised to n minus 1 is equal to n minus 1 factorial divided by s raised to n. I have to get s raised to n, but I have s raised to n plus 1. So in whole formula, wherever there is n, I have to put n minus 1. And now you can tell me easily 1 upon s raised to n will remain out. And this is n minus 1 factorial, isn't it constant? So the formula will be t raised to n minus 1 divided by n minus 1 factorial. That's all. It directly comes from this formula. Only thing is you have to replace n by n minus 1. Okay. Any doubt, students, in these formulas? So sometimes you may forget some formula, but on the spot you should be able to write the formula with the help of Laplace. Okay, now let me ask you this. What will be Laplace inverse of s1 upon s minus 2? What will be Laplace inverse of 1 upon s square minus 9? What will be Laplace inverse of 1 upon s square plus 25? Okay. What will be L inverse of s upon s square plus 36? What will be L inverse of 1 upon s cube? Then what will be L inverse of 3 by s? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, do it quickly. And then I'll ask you the answers randomly. Okay, all of you, you have the set of formulas in front of you. Just apply and write down the answers for all 6. So 6 different students will give me answers. If you're done, then tell me done. Then I'll start asking. If you have any doubt, you can ask me the doubt. This is not the exam.
Ma'am, the last one is 3 upon S, right?
Yes. Okay, Muskan, you're done. Okay, can you tell me, Muskan, the second last answer? What is L inverse of 1 upon S cube? Muskan ji, can you hear me? Muskan, can you hear me? Hello, Muskan. You said you're done. What about Rajat? Rajat, is it done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, second last you tell me, Rajat.
T square upon 2.
Very good. Because we are using this formula, 1 upon S raised to N formula. So it is T raised to N minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2 divided by 2 factorial, which is 2. Very good. Then Rashi, can you tell me fourth answer, Rashi?
Ma'am, that Laplace inverse of S upon S square plus 36
Yes.
cos 6t.
Very good. So you can easily recognize, right? Because the numerator is S here. Okay. And therefore the answer is in terms of cos. Correct. Then Roald, tell me the third answer, Roald.
1 upon 5 sine 5t.
Yes, correct. 1 upon 5 sine 5t. You are very good students, right? Your class is very good. Sujit, can you tell me second one? Sujit Patel, no? Are you there, Sujit? What happened to that Utkarsh? Utkarsh is there today at least. I don't think Utkarsh is there. He is not answering his tutorials also. He's busy in what? I had to report his name to this. Now at least Sujit is attending and Sujit have answered the tutorial. Okay, Sujit, tell me what is the second answer? Sujit, can you hear me? Are you there, Baba? Sujit. You have to give me reasoning of why you didn't respond to my question. Riva, can you tell me second answer?
Um, 1 upon 3 sine hyperbolic 3t.
Very good. Correct. Because numerator is 1, definitely it will go to sine. But why hyperbolic? Because middle sign is minus. Preksha, first answer.
E raised to 2t.
Very good. Now, man, last answer. Now, man, what is the last
Laplace
one?
of 3.
No, what is L inverse of 3 by S? It will be just 3,
3.
right?
Okay, 3.
Because your L inverse of 1 upon S is 1. So Laplace inverse of K by S will be K.
3, 3. Okay.
Okay. So students, all of you understood how to go for Laplace inverse formulas. Then again, like Laplace transform, there will be some more properties. So next class, I will do remaining properties of Laplace inverse. Okay. So we'll stop today because today attendance is very low, very low. SCTC here only I'll write down SCTC. Today is 10th. Okay, give attendance, students. 1, 2, 3. 3 is absent. Okay, 4, 5. 4, 5 not there. 6, 7. 6, 7. 6, 7 is not there. 8, 9, 10. 9, 9 is not there. 10, 11, 12. 12. 12 is not there. 13, 14. 13 is not there. 15, 16. 16 is not there. 17, 18. Not there. 19, 20. 19, 20. 19 is not there. 21, 22. 21 is not there. 23, 24. 25, 26. 27, 28. 29, 30. 30. 31, 32. 31. 32. 33, 34. 35, 36. 37. 38, 39. 39. 40, 41. Sujit, you are there. Why you didn't answer my question? Sujit, can you hear me now? Then why you didn't answer my question when I was calling your name so many times? You have to unmute and say something, even if it may happen that you don't know the answer. I don't expect that everything you should know. I didn't have book and paper. So what you are doing sitting in front of this, your mobile? Huh? Just you are watching for attendance purpose. I'm in factory. But you have timetable, Nire. How you can go in factory? Are you working, Sujit? Or it is your own factory? So how you are attending all lectures from factory only every day? Or only Saturdays you go? See, but you have to give more time to this if you want proper degree. Otherwise, it may happen that you will ignore all these things thinking that you will have online exam and it will be very easy and all everything. Suppose suddenly the government changes the rule and if they ask you to come physically and answer the exam, that time you will be in trouble. So don't take it lightly. Followed? Because when I correct semester papers, because our semester exam is going on for back papers. Online exam is students from somewhere like hi-fi answers. So big formulas, which I also don't know they are using. So really like